Hi, I am Sarah Alexander, and this is my case study, Parent Apathy. In this case, Mrs. Rose is a freshly new assistant administrator at JFK. This is her 4th month in the building. She is working with an administrator who has been in the building, and he does not feel that there is a need for additional parent involvement in the building, although there is a large lack of parent involvement in the school community. Mrs. Rose does not agree with this. She would really like to increase the parent involvement in the building. After discussing with the administrator has agreed to host a parent event, and we are currently at this parent event, and there is a low attendance of 8 parents. And the administrator and Mrs. Rose are trying to determine whether or not the meeting should be continued. So as we look at the problem identification and analysis, we are going to look at what we know, what we need to know, and then really hone in on exactly what the problem is. So what we know is that Mrs. Rose is in her very first year as an assistant principal. She recently graduated, and her last course that she took was school, family, community course. The principal used to have similar feelings as far as wanting high participation from families, but his opinion has changed, and that has been due to a lack of parent involvement. The principal is okay with the current participation of parents. There is not a PTO or a PTA, but there have been previous groups in the past. The principal has agreed to reach out to parents, although there is a low attendance at this current event. And the information about this meeting was distributed to the students, and we also know that the administrator currently does not want to proceed with the meeting. There are lots of things that we need to know. First of all, how long has this principal been in the building? We know that when he first became an administrator, he wanted that parent involvement. What exactly has he tried in the past? We know that he tried to solicit parent volunteers, but what exactly did that look like? Also, what groups were formed in the past? We know there were groups, but what exactly did those groups look like? We also need to know the cultural aspects of families. There are certain cultures that believe that education should remain in the school setting and that is separate from family and from personal life. So understanding that culture would really give us an important picture of the area that we're in. Also, what is the socioeconomic status of the families? Are there 2 working parents in the home? Is there a stay-at-home parent? Is finances a concern? Is that one of the barriers to this communication? And also, we aren't even sure what level this school is. I'm assuming it is a high school or a middle school because there is an assistant administrator, but we are not clear on that. Overall, I broke this problem into 3 different sections. At JFK, there is a lack of parent-community school partnerships. Also, both administrators do not see eye to eye on the importance of these relationships, and currently there is a low attendance at the parent night. When looking at the proposed plan of action, my very first step in this moment at this parent meeting would be to continue this parent meeting. The parents took the time out of their evening to come to this event. We need to tap into those voices, and we need to ask questions. I would want to ask, what caused you to come tonight? How did you hear about this event? That will help us know how they are communicating and how they are receiving that communication. I would want to ask them, what can we do to increase involvement? And also, what are their opinions on the involvement? Do they feel good about the amount of involvement that they have in the school or not? And also, do they feel welcomed in our school? During this step, I would be implementing a number of strategies to assist in this plan. I would be using relationship building. That's the cornerstone to solving this problem, is building relationships. I would be using effective communication skills. I would also be listening empathetically, and I would be asking them questions to really build that relationship. Step 2, I would collaborate with the administrator following the parent night. I would want to discuss parent night reactions. What did the parents have to say? Also, I would want to evaluate his previous experiences, ask those questions, those things that I do not know. Also, what information was shared to parents about this parent night and how was it shared? He believes that he's already connected with families at conferences and through phone calls, but who exactly is he contacting? Are they related to behavior concerns, parent concerns? Because that's one small portion of our families. I would also want to use this as an educational piece and discuss the benefits of these family partnerships, both academically and socially emotionally. I would also want to ask him for his support. As leaders, we must be a united front. And my hopes in this conversation would be to create a plan together and to get the administrator back to the place where he was previously when he was hopeful for this family involvement. The leadership skills needed during this step also include the relationship building, effective communication skills, empathetic listening, and then also conflict resolution, because we are not currently seeing eye to eye. After having that conversation with my administrator and hopefully getting on the same page, I would want to create a family survey and hopefully hear the voices of those who were not at the parent event. I would want to make sure that there were multiple means of administering this survey: online, paper, in person. Perhaps it's around conference time and we can have iPads out available as parents wait to fill out a quick survey. Maybe if we need to, we can make home visits to really get the voices of all of the students and all of the families in our area. I would want to ask tough questions, opinions of the school and school participation. What kind of involvement would they like to be a part of? What kind of meeting time requests do they have? Is it easier in the morning or in the night or during the school day? And then also, how are they receiving communication? This would be a great time to look at how communication is presented and distributed both internally and externally. And I would also want to include the students, staff, and community in this survey, get their perceptions of the school, their happiness, the academics, social, emotional, really get a well-rounded picture. During this stage, I would be using leadership strategies, including researching school surveys that have been conducted not only at my school in the past, but in other schools and other districts. I would want to use information from the parent night. I would leave room for feedback. I would also want to incorporate an incentive for students when their parents complete the surveys, and hopefully this would increase participation in that survey. Step 4, I would want to create a family involvement committee at my school. I would want to invite staff to participate, and staff in different content areas, not only classroom teachers, but also support staff. And I would want them to review this survey information. I would want them to evaluate current communication, both internal and external. Would be a great time to do that. Also, I would want them to create and host academic and non-academic opportunities for our families to attend in the school building. Getting them in our building is huge. I also would want them to promote these events to parents and to students. The strategies in this step would include building staff capacity, building on staff interest, and including staff in the decision-making process. The 5th step includes implementing change and then reflecting on that change. So we would be hosting events allowing families and the community into our school. We want students and families to feel welcomed. We would make changes to the communication based on the information that we learned from the survey. We would want to give it time, and then we'd want to reflect and circle back to the surveys and discussing with the administrator. The strategies in this area include building staff capacity, building staff interest, and including staff in the decision-making process. Category 3, when resolving this issue, we want to promote student success, and that would occur. There is no PTO or PTA. By starting a program, we would include families and increase motivation and support of education. We would create more buy-in from families. Currently, they feel that educators should do all of the work. We would cause students to value education more. It would increase communication between school and home. We know that students were asked to give information to parents, and this is not effective. We would also this would lead to student achievement, and we would also want to include student opinions. As I was solving this problem, I was thinking, what is best for students? What can we do to increase attendance and participation? And how can we get everyone on board? Those are my driving questions that I was thinking about. When making my plan, I was valuing the parent-school partnerships, two-way communication, and collaborating with my administrator. When thinking through this problem, I was feeling frustration towards the administration. I feel that administration is currently giving a sense of apathy. I was feeling disappointed by the lack of parent attendance and also feeling hopeful for the future relationships. A few unresolved concerns include the possible resistant opinions. We still might have resistance from the administrator, feeling that the parents were better off left alone. We could be having resistant opinions from parents, which expect educators to do all of the work. And then we also don't know the opinion of our staff. There also might be a concern related to the relationship with the administrator based on Mrs. Rose's concern about sharing her opinion. And then we would also want to continue those check-ins with re-administering surveys and then continual check-ins with parents. When reflecting on Standard 4, we want to make sure that through this plan we have hit on academic success, student well-being, and the community piece. So through academic success, that was demonstrated in step number 3, where student surveys would be used to gather perception data, and this gives academic perceptions as well. Step 4 included creating academic and non-academic events for student and families, and this will increase motivation and the support of education. Step 4 included promoting events for student and families, which will again increase academic performance. When looking at the student well-being, this was demonstrated in step 3 through student surveys to gather perception data based on their happiness at the school, how they feel in the school environment, their safety, and also their social emotional needs. And this is based on the results, which will create a plan which will increase their overall mental health and overall well-being. Step 5 demonstrated student well-being as well when hosting events, allowing families and communities into the school building. Students and families will feel welcomed, and there will be increased conversations in the home. Also, this will be a complete village working together to raise our children and focus on their future. And finally, the communities of engagements, that was addressed in step 1 with continuing the current parent meeting, and also in step 3, creating a family and community service, really focusing on the community aspect. And then also it was demonstrated in step 4, creating a family involvement committee, where this committee will focus on hosting events for families and communities, where we are all involved and create a sense of community inside the school. So, while looking at this problem, I was able to break it down into smaller pieces and really come up with a manageable plan on how to work towards solving this problem collaboratively with my administrator. Thank you for listening.